bread kitchen. This week I'm going to make a traditional bread from the south of France called Fougasse. It's a kind of tear and share bread, and the most important ingredient for this Fougasse is a 99p plastic scraper. Now we'll start by making a pre-ferment called a Poolish, and for that I've got 165 grams of bread flour, 165 grams of lukewarm water and a teaspoon of yeast, dried yeast. I'm just going to add the yeast into the water, mix it and then leave it for 10 minutes for the yeast to get going. Now we'll put the flour in the bowl together with the yeast and water, mix them around, and you'll end up with something which, just like the Three Bears porridge, is not too thick, not too thin, and it's just right. Now cover it and leave it at room temperature for a couple of hours. Now while the Poolish is fermenting, I'm going to prepare the filling, and I'm making an olive Fougasse, so I've got 200 grams of olives. I'm using a mixture of black and green. I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of mixed herbs, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Then I'll mix them all together and just leave this to marinate while the Poolish is fermenting. Now you don't have to flavour Fougasse with olives. You can use other things like sun-dried tomatoes or caramelised onions. There are some alternative filling suggestions on my website. After a couple of hours, the Poolish should have nice big bubbles in it, and it looks like it's about to collapse. Now I'm going to mix in 185 grams of lukewarm water. Try and get it as smooth as possible. Now into a large bowl, put 310 grams of bread flour and 25 grams of rye flour. If you haven't got rye flour, don't worry, just add extra plain bread flour instead. Mix them together. Make a well in the centre and add in the diluted Poolish. Then mix to a smooth and sticky dough. Oh, nearly forgot the teaspoon of salt. And after a couple of minutes you'll end up with a dough which is very stretchy and sticky. I'll scrape my dough out of the bowl. You can see how sticky it is. Now this is one of these doughs where if you've got a stand mixer you're at a real advantage. If not, like me, and you're going to have to really work this dough to get the stickiness out of it. I'm going to do this for about 10 minutes. Now I'm not going to lie to you, this is a bit like fighting a slime monster, but the best weapon you have in your arsenal is actually a plastic scraper, partly to scrape off the dough from your fingers, which is very good at, but it also enables you to scoop it all together from time to time. I've come off the wooden surface because it's a bit too sticky for that, and I'm now on my kitchen worktop, but you can see that the dough's come together quite nicely. And now what I'm doing is I'm picking the dough up by the side, rolling it over itself, picking it up at the side, slapping it down and rolling it over. And I'm going to keep doing this for 4 or 5 minutes now. Now the trick with sticky doughs like this is to keep them moving, because once you let them rest, even if it's only for 10 or 15 seconds, they have this really nasty habit of sticking to the surface. I've floured my work surface and I'm just going to put the dough onto that surface and press it out. Now I'll put the olives into the centre, as many as I can get in, and fold the dough over. Might need to use my scraper in places. Then press it out again, and put the rest of the olives on, fold over, pick up the other olives, and then knead it all together. Now at first you probably think that all the olives won't go into the dough, but just persist, and again using your plastic scraper to help with the process, you will be able to fold them all into the dough. They might stick out a bit, but don't worry about that. Okay, that's fine. They're all in. I told you they'd go. Now when your dough's well mixed, pop it in a well-oiled bowl, cover it, and then put it in a nice warm place to let the dough double in size. My dough's risen very well, so I'm just going to give this surface a really good flouring. I'll turn the dough out, plastic scraper coming in handy again. Now I'll cut it roughly in half. Just flour my hands and make each piece into a rough ball. I'm just going to put this one to one side. That looks okay. Just flour this corner. Put the dough there and flour this surface really well again. Now I'm going to pull the dough out, flour my rolling pin and roll the dough out to about anywhere between a half and a quarter of an inch thick. Now I'll use my little piece of plastic to make some cuts in this. First one there, and then 3 at about 30 degrees, and the same on the other side. And we can open up the cuts. It's looking quite pretty. I've slid the fougasse onto a well-greased baking tray while I deal with the other piece of dough. And there's the second one. Now I'm going to pop each fougasse into its own plastic bag. Or you could just cover it with film. Then I'm going to leave this in a nice warm place to prove for about 45 minutes to an hour. The breads are ready for baking and they're going to go into a very hot oven, 220 degrees C fan oven, 240 degrees C conventional oven for only 8 to 10 minutes. Once it's baked, pop it onto a wire rack, then brush lightly with olive oil. Now leave to cool. The texture of these is lovely and soft. Delicious fougasse, great for sharing with friends. This stuff's really tasty, tears easily, and it's absolutely delicious. If you've got friends coming round for a social evening, instead of putting out some peanuts or some crisps or chips, make a fougasse. Your friends will love you for it. I hope you enjoy making your fougasse, and do join me next time in the bread kitchen.